This is the most powerful man on YouTube, and it's not MrBeast. Let me explain. Over the past 5 years, MrBeast has become the biggest star the internet has ever seen. But with 18 different YouTube channels, hundreds of employees, and 2 food companies, he can't possibly manage everything on his own. MrBeast realized pretty early on that he needed someone to focus on the business side of things so he could put all of his time into making the best videos possible. And back in 2018, he met that person. This is Reed Dusher, the manager of MrBeast. Back in 2015, he started a YouTube management company called Night Media, and since then, he's signed some of the biggest creators on the platform. Through Night's creators, Reed has control over 500 million subscribers, and without him, something like MrBeast's Burger probably wouldn't even exist.
We think we should take this to Jimmy. What that would look like, how big could this get? It was just sprinting to get as many locations as possible.
But Reed wasn't always working with YouTubers. He first started out as an NFL sports agent in 2014. He had played football in college, but he realized pretty early on that he wasn't cut out for the NFL. So even though he couldn't play himself, being an agent kept him close to the game. And while he enjoyed his job, he was frustrated that none of the players were taking advantage of social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and most importantly, YouTube. He started seeing channels that were getting millions of views, and he saw an opportunity. One of these channels was Dude Perfect. At the time, the group only had around 2 million subscribers, which was really big at the time, and Reed had a feeling that YouTube was going to be the next TV for the new generation. He didn't want to miss out on this opportunity, and he ended up quitting his job as a sports agent and moving to Dallas only a month after meeting Dude Perfect. But little did Reed know, this was only the beginning. After finding 6-figure brand deals for Dude Perfect on a regular basis, Reed was starting to see how incredibly lucrative the YouTube business could be. And in 2015, he started Night Media to help creators treat their channels more like businesses. After searching around for a while, he signed his first client, Typical Gamer, who at the time was still a small YouTube streamer with only around 400,000 subscribers. As time went on, Reed started to meet other YouTubers like Preston and Unspeakable, and after signing just a few creators, Reed now managed 3 of who would later become some of the biggest creators on the platform. If he had just stopped signing clients at that point, Night would have already been a successful business. But Reed had no idea who he was about to meet.
And then I met Jimmy through a Twitter DM in 2018. Jimmy had like 1.3 million subscribers at the time, which is crazy to say now.
At the time, MrBeast had just over 1 million subscribers, and he was still doing things like saying PewDiePie 100,000 times. But as crazy as he seemed, Reed could tell that there was something different about Jimmy.
I could tell, like, the moment I met him, he had a different understanding of YouTube that I had not heard before. He did say he had 1 million subscribers when I met him, and he was like, I'm gonna have 10 million subscribers by the end of the year. Okay, 9 million subs in a year, like, this guy's crazy.
After all, his team at the time was just Chris, an editor, and his mom.
But he was like, no, here's what I'm gonna do. And he kind of laid out the plan of how he was gonna grow. And he was like, I need money to fund these videos.
And that's where Reed comes in. Whether it was negotiating brand deals or searching for private islands to buy, Night would now take over the business side of MrBeast. But MrBeast isn't exactly the easiest person to manage. You see, MrBeast doesn't care how much money he spends on his videos. All he cares about is making the best videos possible, which sounds good, but it can cause some issues.
There was a level of stress of, hey Jimmy, we need a sponsor on this video or we don't have any money left.
As time went on, Reed continued to sign more creators, and every single one was growing unbelievably fast. He needed more employees to deal with smaller things like brand deals and merchandise so that he would have more time to focus on bigger projects like MrBeast's mobile game, Finger on the App. Finger on the App was a game where the last person to take their finger off their screen would walk away with $25,000. On the surface, it seemed like a pretty harmless game with only good intentions from both MrBeast and the Night Media team. And people were extremely excited to compete in a MrBeast challenge from the comfort of their own homes. But with it came some unexpected challenges that Reed and MrBeast hadn't really anticipated.
Oh, nice. What? Yo, no way. Yo, you guys saw my finger was on the whole thing.
The app had a ton of glitches, and players would be kicked out of the game for seemingly no reason. And it's kinda easy to understand someone's frustration if they play the game for hours and then lose to something that's completely out of their control. But despite the game suffering from plenty of imperfections, Finger on the App was still a big success. Reed was starting to see the true potential of YouTuber businesses. And just a few months later, Reed was approached by a restaurant company with the idea of launching a MrBeast themed restaurant, which we now know as MrBeast's Burger.
They like lightly touched on, hey, we're also working on this virtual dining business where like you launch, 100 virtual locations. Like, wait, hold on. Tell me more about that, because that sounds interesting.
The company promised that they could open 300 virtual restaurants in a single day, which was something nobody had ever done before, especially not a YouTuber. And not surprisingly, Reed jumped at this opportunity. At this point, Reed had pretty much made up his mind, but MrBeast still hadn't even heard the idea. But after Reed pitched it to Jimmy, it was a no-brainer. They even came up with a video idea to promote this new business on MrBeast's channel. Basically, the idea was that MrBeast would open a restaurant that pays people to eat at, and at the end, he would reveal MrBeast's burger to the world. And after only 3 months of planning, the video was released on December 19th in 2020. And just like that, MrBeast's burger was now available for 300 locations across the US on delivery apps like DoorDash. But once again, running a business doesn't come without failure.
We had like 100 cars waiting outside restaurants, waiting for their orders, and there wasn't enough delivery drivers to order the amount of hamburgers that were being ordered. And people were just yelling on Twitter about like not receiving their orders for like 2 hours, and him and I were just playing damage control.
With so many restaurants being open day one, Reed and MrBeast had very little control over quality assurance. But even after a rough start, the team was able to reduce the amount of complaints over time by making small adjustments here and there. Today, MrBeast's burger is now available in over 1,000 locations worldwide, and the chain has shared over $100 million in revenue with their host restaurants. And if you don't like delivery apps, the first physical location is now open in New Jersey. As you can tell, managing MrBeast is a full-time job on its own. But over the course of these past 5 years, Knight Media has grown to over 30 YouTubers that have to be taken care of as well. And these aren't small channels either. Luckily, Knight's team has grown as well, and he now has around 50 employees. But as the CEO, Reed has influence over creators with 160 billion views combined. No one else on YouTube has control over this many viewers except for YouTube itself. So while Reed doesn't even have a channel of his own, he is still the most powerful man on YouTube.